Welcome to the Relationship Revivalists podcast. I'm your host, John, and I would like to introduce to you my lovely wife and co-host, Jess.
Thanks, John.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really great. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, we're about a week after Thanksgiving right now as the podcast is coming out, and you know, I think we had a pretty good Thanksgiving, don't you?
Oh, I think we had an awesome Thanksgiving. I think it was a huge success.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank my team and our family and friends for coming and helping, and it was just amazing spending time together.
It really was. I really, I guess the word would be cherish. I cherish the times that we have together in family time. And, you know, it's so special that we even get to have them all over to our house. I know there's some people that they're like, yeah, I would rather go somewhere else because then they don't have to clean up the mess. But honestly, I mean,
it was my lifelong dream, long before I even met you, John, that I would someday have a big house that I could have people over, hopefully with my husband, because that was, you know, always part of my dream too. Could have people over for the holidays, and then, you know, that way you don't have to travel. So I definitely rather clean up the mess. I think that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, because think if you're traveling, you could be traveling in a half hour, an hour, or a lot longer. That was kind of in the stereo there. But when you're cleaning up, like we took care of our cleanup in a matter of an hour, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Yeah,
it was good.
It was awesome. So let's dive into what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about communication. I love that. So the first bullet point that we're going to do is listen to actually hear what the person is saying rather than listening to respond. I know you may have heard this in other places, such as the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this one is so true, and I actually took a class on this, and they actually I had a chance to practice this with my other classmates that were taking it, and wow, it was very interesting at how you can get a different reaction because you are listening to hear rather than listening to respond. You know how people are like, well, I want to be heard, and I'll never get heard if I don't just respond. But then that takes away the listening, doesn't it? So if you're not listening, that's the first thing you should be doing in the first place, is just listen to whomever you are listening to, and then think about what they're saying. And the biggest thing that I learned is if you're truly listening, formulate a question that reiterates what they just said to you. And that lets the person that was just talking know, hey, yeah, they were really listening to me. In fact, they listened to me so much they rearranged what I just said and gave it to them on a different plate, so to speak.
Yeah, and I love that whole concept of listening to listen. And so it's really good to be kind of slow to speak. Some people, I think, when they're in an argument and they're thinking about the argument later and they think, oh, I should have said that. That would have been really good. But would it have really been great to say a zinger of a rebuttal? Probably not. Mm-hmm. So it's probably best you kept your mouth shut, less to apologize for later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've probably heard the saying, and I'm forgetting exactly how it goes, but it basically goes, do something now and then ask for forgiveness later.
Oh, act now.
Yeah. Sometimes this scenario is not a good one to put that to practice. But yeah. So the next one that we are going to tell you about is not going to bed before you've resolved any tantrums, anger issues, or arguments, or whatever you want to call them.
Like, don't let the sun go down in your anger, right?
Exactly, yeah. That's a huge one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Why do you think, why do you think God said that? So we wouldn't stay angry overnight and stew about something.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of this new stuff that's coming out. People are grabbing onto how powerful our words are, and so much so that we can create with our words. And I've heard a lot of people say, where do your words come from? Well, they come from thoughts. And these thoughts, you can analyze it and go all the way down to the atom, if you'd like, to the spirit, basically. And it comes out as words. And the next thing you know, you have something that you've already built.
That's right. And our words are so powerful, and they're energy, and they create, like John said. And so we don't want to, hold grudges and unforgiveness in our hearts. So it's so important to take care of any kind of argument or any hard feelings as quick as possible. And for husband and wife, it's the most important, because that's your closest person. So you need to do it as quick as possible to talk it out, forgive, whatever you need to do so you don't hold that resentment in your heart against your person. So we were forgiving as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Right, John?
We were definitely.
But yes, so it's important to listen and really hear your partner, and then also to forgive and let things go and make sure that you've made up before the sun sets. Mm-hmm. It's so important as soon as possible, because you don't want to be that island out there alone. If you could kind of look into the spirit realm for a little bit, isn't that exactly what the devil wants? He wants to get right in there between you. And I remember talking about in another podcast, John, about how we're a united front, and we don't let anyone, not a human and not the devil, in between us. And so when we have hard feelings against our spouse, it's as if we're opening the door, say, come on in, devil. Come on in between us, and we don't want that. So we need to forgive right away, make it right away, and move on with our arms locked together and step together. Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good example. I think that was episode 2.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think that's what episode it was. If you want to check it out, go ahead and do that. The third one that we were going to talk about is we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of texting, and throughout the day, just say, hey, how are you doing? If you're on a break, or if you're on a lunch period, or just a lull in your day, you can just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Lift them up. Who knows? What are they going through at work on the other side of town, or even on the other side of the building? If you're so lucky to be in the same company or different floors, what have you, just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I think this is kind of goes without saying, but it's a good reminder to actually interact with your spouse. You don't have to be 9 hours without saying hi or I love you or what have you. Just different little uplifting things that you can say to your spouse that would really make their day, because maybe they're going through a day where they're just not feeling very good. They're depressed or feeling a little anxious, and that's not good to begin with. So what can you do to help your spouse come out of that funk? You can just offer some words of encouragement, some words that will help you. For guys and girls, you can really score just by doing this. You can make things so much easier on yourselves by speaking uplifting words.
Yeah, and John and I do this pretty much every day, especially every work day. Our schedules don't exactly coincide perfectly, but they're not bad. It's, so he goes to work earlier than I do. And so before I've even left for work, sometimes he's already texted me, but it's been a few hours before I've seen him, and since we said goodbye, and it just, so often he says something that I needed to hear, just that extra little motivation, or even just that I love you, that it's like, yeah, he's thinking about me, he loves me, and I'm ready to go, and then we just kind of find those times in our day that work for our schedules, not to get in the way of our work, of course, but on our breaks and stuff, we'll text back and forth. And then maybe even like call in the afternoon or something, just to hear each other's voices. And so just little things like that, when you can find little ways to communicate with each other throughout the day, just really instills that you're a team, it keeps you close. And it also can be a safeguard. The devil's a wily one. He might, try to bring some cool person in at work or whatever, and that looks interested in you. If you've already had that communication, with your spouse, throughout the day. That's another safeguard too.
It is.
Just to be like, I got my person. He loves me. I know he does.
That's right.
You know.
So it's just keeping in communication throughout the day. So many different stories I could say. There were times where you would text me in the mornings, and I would just get accustomed to you doing it, and then there would be like a day or two where you just like you didn't do it.
Oh.
And not against you or anything, but it was really helping me realize how much I really wanted to see that in the mornings, because I knew, yes, you were getting up, you were getting ready, and you were thinking about me, and it makes me feel good. And a lot of guys probably take a lot of things for granted, I think, because things become habit, and when you see a habit go throughout time, people tend to want to think, well, I just take it for granted because it's going to happen. Well, you have to really realize that this is not something that can or does happen because it's automatic. It's because someone cares about you. It's because they're there and they do love you. And I've even thought, there's things that when I first became a widower, I had no idea the things that she had done for me and the family until she passed, because then I had to pick up and do all the stuff. And honestly, it was a shock to the system, but you know what? You keep going. You just pick up and you keep going, and you grow, you heal, and you move on to whatever God has next for you in life.
Yep. So should we recap, John?
Yeah.
So we were talking about communication today, and we were talking about don't let the sun go down on your anger and why that's so important, even though it's an old saying. It's still true today, very, very important. Also, to stay in communication throughout the day as you can. And the other one was?
Listen to hear rather than listen to respond.
And that might even be the most important one.
That's right. So that recaps everything. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And then share this out if you can, depending on where you're at. Follow us on social media. We have all our social media accounts all set up now, and our blog, which is therelationshiprevivalists.com. We look forward to seeing you on social media and on the next video podcast. Hey, everyone. And we'll talk to you guys in the next episode coming out on Wednesday.
We'll see you later.